What's up, guys? I'm Boxing, and I'm continuing with my ranking series. Today I'm going to be ranking the top 15 cruiserweights of 2020, and let's get started. So first of all, number one, it was a very tough choice between Dorticos and Breedis, as they were supposed to fight for the Cruiserweight World Boxing Super Series final on March 21st, which would have settled their differences. But as of now, I'm putting Maurice Breedis at number one. His professional record is 26-1 with 19 KOs. He's currently the WBC Diamond Champion. He's from Latvia, and he's known for fighting there. In the last World Boxing Super Series, he went to the semifinal, losing to Alexander Usyk. And in this tournament, he's coming off a KO win over Krzysztof Glowatsky, which is one of his highlight wins of his career. And also, he has a win over Noel Javor, which was a very closely contested bout for him going into the semifinals. But in my opinion, Maurice Breedis is a great fighter. He has decent power, and he's also got a knockout win over the current WBA heavyweight champion, Manuel Charr, a couple years back in Russia, the fight was. But overall, I think he's an excellent fighter. He has great skill, and he's just packing seats in the crowd in Riga, Latvia, as most of his biggest fights have been in Latvia, and he just fills the whole arena. He's a great fighter, and I'm looking forward to see him fight against Dorticos after this pandemic. And moving on to number two, I'm giving it to the Cuban former world champion and current IBF champion, Yuniel Dorticos. He's 24-1 with 22 big wins by knockout. He also was another fighter who competed in the last Super Series. He made it to the semifinals as well, getting stopped and knocked out in the 12th round versus Murat Gassiev, where he was dropped once. Well, he was dropped twice in round 12. First one, caught him clean with the hook, did Gassiev. He got back up but wasn't able to continue, got knocked through the ropes when the fight was over. He was the former WBA Cruiserweight champion, and one of his highlight wins was knocking out Dmitry Kudryashov in the Super Series for him to move on. And I believe that fight was in Houston or Miami. I'm not too sure. But in his last fight, he had probably one of the KOs of the year for 2019. It was versus Andrew Tabiti, where he landed a huge right hand, knocking him clean out on the undercard of Breedis versus Glowacki. And in my opinion, he has excellent power, and he has good skill as well. And now moving on, at number three is the newly crowned WBC Cruiserweight champion, Lunga Makabu from the Congo in Africa. In his last fight, he won by unanimous decision against Michal C-Slack, who is also on this list. And he's also had other shots at the world title, like against Tony Bellew, and he's also got some other good wins as well, like against Tabisco Manchunu, and against Yuri Kalegenda. And he's also had a fight versus Tony Bellew, where he did drop Bellew in the first round for the vacant WBC title a couple years back, but then Bellew knocked him out, stopping him in round two to end the fight. In my opinion, Makabu has great power, and he has good skill as well, but his chin isn't that great, as he's been knocked out twice in his career in both his defeats. And he was also almost dropped in his fight versus Dmitry Kudryashov, which he did finish, getting a fifth round KO. It was almost a double knockdown. Both fighters hit each other with hooks. Kudryashov got dropped on his back, while Makabu got wobbled and was doing a chicken dance, it looked like, as he was dropping his opponent. But I recently watched that fight the other day because I wanted to see some boxing, and that was a great fight. You guys should go check it out. But yeah, that was one of his better wins, besides his title win that he just had in February. And also in his title fight versus Sislak, there was a lot of controversy. He did drop him in that fight. I did watch a little bit of that fight. But then there was a lot of controversy where when Makabu was hurt, his hometown crowd in Africa was trying to stop the fight or something like that. It was some controversy going down there. And moving on to number 4, I'm giving it to Krzysztof Glowatsky. He's the former WBO Cruiserweight World Champion. His record is 31 wins, 2 defeats with 19 KOs. He's fighting out of Łódź, Poland, and he's a great fighter in my opinion. I went to fight in the Prudential Center a couple of years back in August. I believe it was August of 2015. He fought Marco Huck. The atmosphere was great in the Prudential Center, and the crowd loved him. They were cheering for him to win. Then he comes back with an 11th round stoppage, knocking out the champion, and that was when he won his WBO crown. And then he, I believe, made a couple defenses in Poland, and then he did make a defense against Steve Cunningham at the Barclays Center. I was also at that fight, and he dropped Cunningham multiple times, defending the belt, getting a unanimous decision before losing his belt to Alexander Usyk. And most recently, I believe in June of 2019, it was a huge controversial thing with the referee Robert Byrd, where he didn't hear the bell. He was letting Breedy's elbow Glowacki in the face. Glowacki was also dropped after the bell in that fight. It was just very controversial. And moving on to number 5, the next few spots, number 5, number 6, and number 7 are a little debatable, but I have the Super WBA champion, Arslan Goulamirian. He's 26-0 with 18 KOs. He's born in Armenia, but in boxing, his nationality is counted as French. I'm assuming he's lived there for a couple of years now. So I saw him fight in his biggest fights, like against Rihad Merhi, where he won the interim title. And then I watched one of his title defenses where he won by KO. Right now he's on a KO streak. But I mainly saw his fight versus Rihad Merhi, where he won by KO in the 11th round. And that's when he won his interim title, then fought again, moving up to his world title. In my opinion, he's got decent power, he's got decent skill as well, and I believe if he fights any of the top 5 guys, he could have a chance in beating them and unifying the belts. And moving on to number 6, I have the IBO World Champion from South Africa. He's 25-1 with 12 KOs, Kevin Lerena. I did make a couple videos on him. You guys should go check it out about his fight versus Firat Arslan, which was his last fight, getting a good stoppage. He looked great in that fight, battering Firat Arslan. But in general, I think Lerena is a good fighter. One of his biggest wins was against Yuri Kalagenda, where he won the IBO title. And I believe there were some things heard about him getting a WBA shot. I believe he should get a real title shot, because I believe he should strip himself of his IBF title and then fight for something real big. Possibly Arslan Goulamirian's WBA belt, which would be a great fight. I'm not sure who would win that one. And moving on, I have Tabiso Mchunu. He's currently the WBC silver champ, 22-5 with 13 wins by knockout, my bad. Don't let his record deceive you. He's a great fighter. He's coming off a career best win versus Denis Lebedev, where he captured the WBC silver title. I believe back in December that fight was, who outpointed Denis Lebedev, who is known for being one of the great cruiserweight fighters, and he, as a former WBA champ, or a former WBA champ who has made many defenses of his title, and Lebedev also has challenged for the IBF belt as well. But mainly, Mchunu had another great win versus Yuri Kalagenda. Kalagenda on this list is going to be said a lot because he's fought a lot of guys on here. As the cruiserweight division is very limited, that's why I did make it into a top 15, because there's a lot of guys that most people have not heard of that are outside of the Super Series. So I'd like to take highlights of some of the guys in the top 15 as well. And in my opinion, Tabiso Mchunu is a great fighter from South Africa, and I believe he could get a title shot and may possibly do well in one of his fights against a champion. And moving on now, I have the former world title challenger, Michał Cieślak. He's 19-1 with 13 KOs. He's got a win versus Ruslan Fairfair in Yuri Kalagenda, as I said before. And his only defeat was back in February by decision to Lunga Makabu, where, he did lose by decision. He was dropped in that fight, and he, I believe, hurt Makabu. As I said before, the crowd was like trying to stop him from hurting him or something like that. But then, my opinion, from watching him versus Makabu, he's a great fighter. He's got decent power, and he's got great skill as well. He's a good Polish fighter. There's a lot of great Polish cruiserweights out there, and he's definitely one of them. Moving on, here is DAZN's greatest cruiserweight, Lawrence Okoli, 14-0 with 11 wins by KO. He's currently the EBU world champion, and he's coming off some decent wins on DAZN. In his last fight, he won the EBU title against Yves Ngabu. And by what I said before about him being the best DAZN cruiserweight, I mean the British DAZN cruiserweight. Just saying. Because I'm not talking about like KSI or Logan Paul or the other guys ahead of him like Dorticos or Breedes. But moving on, Okoli, he's not a bad fighter. He's got good skill, very good skill in fact, and he's got good power as well. Knocking out Yves Ngabu, I do think the stoppage in that fight was a little early. He just wobbled Ngabu back with one shot, nothing else, and the referee stopped it a little early. I would have liked to see how Ngabu would have taken the fight as it went on. But you got to admit, the referee has a job, and he did that job, and opposed to stopping the fight later, like if Ngabu was really hurt, but he just stopped it in what he thought was in time. And Okoli, he's former Olympian. He has a good amateur background, and I definitely think he'll be a threat to some of the top 5 guys. And if he fights him, he could beat him. So I'm just going to put him at number 9 now, just seeing what would happen as time goes on. And at number 10, sorry if I misspelled his name, it may be Riyad Murray. But yeah, his name is Riyad Murray. He's from Belgium. He's a 29-1 with 24 KOs. He's currently the interim WBA Cruiserweight champ. He's coming off a career best win against Imre Celso, who was undefeated at the time, capturing the interim WBA title. And I've only watched him in those 2 fights against Celso and when he fought Goulamirian in his only defeat, which is for, again, the interim title. But in the Goulamirian fight, it was, I guess you could say, on a bigger stage, as it was televised throughout Europe. It was a pretty big fight there. And he did lose by 11th round stoppage. But in a close fight it was. I saw the fight. He looked pretty good. Both fighters looked very good. But his opponent getting the stoppage. But in the Imre Celso, he knocked out Celso in round number 7, capturing the interim title, as I said before. And I believe I saw the video on YouTube. Go check it out. And Murphy is definitely a good fighter. And I think he could give a test to the number 7 and number 8 guys, possibly beating them. And at number 11, I'm giving it to Andrew Tabiti. He's 17-1 with 13 KOs. Although he lost to Uniel Dorticos in his one title shot, he put up a great effort. He was fighting very well. He fights on the back foot, has a good jab, he has a good right hand. But, his chin was he was fighting the KO doctor with excellent power, but once he got clocked in the chin by Dorticos, he was knocked out cold. And as I said before, it was one of the best knockouts of 2019. And before that, he does have a win versus Latif Coyote, which is definitely one of his best wins. And in my opinion, he's a good boxer. And moving on to number 12, although he only has 12 fights with 11 victories and only 1 defeat, he's Alexei Popin from Russia. His last fight was for the WBC silver title versus Lunga Makabu. He did lose that fight by decision. He did get dropped in the process, but it was a very, very close fight. When I say close, I mean very close. I expected the judges to rob him, to Rob Makabu in that fight because it was in Russia, and it was the co-main event to Kovalev versus Yard. And he did look very good in that fight. He was winning a lot of the rounds, but did get hurt a lot later in the fight, and he did hurt Makabu as well. Like, he really did hurt Makabu, and he did box well against him. So I got to give props to him. He's a very good fighter, and I definitely think he could win a cruiserweight title at some point in his career, as it is only early. And for him, I believe this is a minor step back, and I think he'd come back and win a belt. Moving on, even though he's age 38, and you may say he's past his prime, I'm just going to put him here. Krzysztof Wlodarczyk. He's the former WBC Cruiserweight champ. His biggest fights were definitely against Gassiev, where he did lose by KO. Gregory Drod, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, where he lost his WBC crown, but he also has a win defending his WBC title against Rakhim Shankiviev. If I pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry. But he does have a lot of defenses of his WBC title back in the early 2010s, like 2013, 2014. And he's a good fighter. He is getting a couple wins against not the best opposition, but he's definitely a good fighter. Still, even though he's age 38, I think he could give a test to some of the top 5 guys or the top 10 guys. Maybe even beating guys like Lawrence Okolie or Riyad Murray. But yeah, he's a good fighter in general. Moving on, I have the former WBA gold champion, Alexei Yegorov. I'm not sure if they stripped him or not, because right now he has 2 fights that, after his WBA gold reign, he has 2 fights after. They were just 10-round fights. Before that, he made a defense for his WBA gold belt on Russian television, getting the 3rd round stoppage. And when I saw him fight a couple times, he doesn't look that bad. He actually looks pretty good. He has decent power. He has a good win versus Latif Coyote. That's definitely his best win. But, man, I gotta say, he hasn't really fought anyone great besides Latif Coyote, but Coyote's sort of at the end of his career, and I'm not sure if Coyote could ever be anyone good again. But yeah, and moving on at number 15, even though he had a lot of fights at heavyweight, he had a title shot at heavyweight. He's recently moved down to the cruiserweight division. I'm going to put him here because I believe Artur Szpilka from Poland could definitely do a decent job and have some good fights at cruiserweight and possibly win a belt. I'm just saying, because he has tasted the canvas many times. He's fought against some great heavyweights, and I'm definitely sure that he could achieve some good things in cruiserweight, as he has had a WBC title shot versus Wilder. I was at that fight in Brooklyn, January 16th of 2016. The crowd went silent as the Polish crowd was cheering for him after Szpilka was knocked out cold. But he was causing Wilder some trouble with his jab and his movement throughout the fight. But then once Wilder caught him, it was over, as Szpilka is not known for having the best chin. And before his cruiserweight fights, he did fight Derek Chisora, losing by KO in the 1st round. But I think it was a smart move going down the cruiserweight, as he knew that his chin wasn't going to take it at heavyweight, as he does definitely have some skill, and I believe that he will achieve at cruiserweight. But he also has a KO loss to Adam Kovnatsky and some other fighters as well. But as I said before, he's definitely someone to watch for in the cruiserweight division. I believe he should maybe do a step-up fight versus possibly Wlodarczyk if they're able to make that fight in Poland, because that'll definitely be a good fight to watch. And yeah, that's really it. I'm going to be boxing now. It's my top 15 cruiserweight rankings. Hopefully you liked them, and thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.